welcome back to Max and Mello's Architecture Soul. I'm Max Soul, and we're opening up the blueprints for Season 2, Episode 10. Today we're talking about a man who redefined what cool looks like in the industry, and he surely did.
Yeah, I'm Mello Soul. Today we're deconstructing Lou Rawls.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, most people hear that voice and think Vegas or commercials, but the bedrock of Lou Rawls is pure, uncut Chicago South Side gospel.
Oh, that's right, Mello. To understand Lou, you have to understand his grandmother. She was the general contractor of his life. Let's have a look at the Matriarchal Blueprint laid down by his grandmother, Eliza Rawls, because she didn't just encourage him to sing. She engineered an environment where vocal excellence was the only standard, and here is how she piqued his interest and built his foundation.
Right, Max. First, she marched him into the Greater Mount Vernon Baptist Church. The frequency was what she wanted him to tune into.
That's right, she sure did, Mello. Eliza didn't ask Lou if he wanted to go to church. She made the church his primary research lab. She placed him in the choir when he was only 6 years old. She wasn't playing.
No, Max, she surely was not. She taught him that a voice wasn't an ornament, it was a tool for communication. She would tell him that if he couldn't make the people in the very last row feel the spirit, he wasn't singing yet.
And she wasn't fooling around.
And it piqued his interest in the physics of singing. How to move air and project a baritone frequency that could command a massive space.
And Mello, this led to his exposure to the giants because Eliza Rawls was well connected in the Chicago gospel circuit. She made sure Lou was in the room when the heavy lifters of the era were performing. She took him to see the Soul Stirrers and the other elite quartets. I mean, seriously, Mello, Eliza Rawls didn't just take Lou to church. She took him to the Grand Canyon of vocal performance. In Chicago, during the late 40s and the early 50s, the gospel quartet scene was the equivalent of the NBA. Highly competitive, technically demanding, and physically electric. To Eliza, these weren't just singers. They were the master masons of the new vibe.
For real, Max. Think about the frequency in that room. You've got the Pilgrim Travelers, whom he joins, and we'll talk about it in a few.
Right.
The Travelers bringing that heavy rhythm, and the Swan silver tones bringing that high-end silk. Lou was sitting there with a mental clipboard taking notes on every blueprint they laid down.
Oh, he certainly was, Mello. He was watching the Dixie Hummingbirds and Archie Brownlee of the Five Blind Boys and learning that power isn't about volume. It's about control. Archie Brownlee had a shout that could peel the paint off of walls, but he also had a delicate falsetto, and Lou learned dynamic range, something that is really instrumentally important to any vocalist. He realized that to be a great architect, you have to know how to use the shout sparingly so that when you finally do it, the whole building shakes. What a powerful lesson that is, Mello. Eliza made sure he knew the difference between an amateur and an architect before he was even 10 years old. What a badass.
Oh, yeah, and it's that finishing school energy. By the time he hit the stage himself, he'd already seen the greatest to ever do it. He didn't have to guess how to build a hit. He'd watched the masters lay the bricks his whole life. That vocal reach is what eventually allowed him to command the massive rooms in Las Vegas and the Apollo.
And I saw him command those rooms at the Apollo, and he sure as hell did. Lou was awesome. So the architectural takeaway for our peers is, Mello, Lou Rawls proves that environment is education. He didn't wait for a record deal to learn the business. He learned it in the pews of Chicago by studying the elite. For the R&B artists of today, who are you watching? Are you studying the TikTok trend of the week? Or are you looking at the structural steel of the giants? All right, let's get back to young Lou.
Yeah, well, Eliza Rawls knew by exposing him to men who carried themselves with dignity and possessed incredible vocal control, she had piqued his interest in the business of professionalism. Lou saw that singing could be a way out of the dead-end streets and into a life of class.
And because the church music was often stripped down, Mello, Lou had to learn how to be his own rhythm section. Eliza encouraged him to practice harmonizing with anything, like the radio, the wind, the other kids on the porch, and the result, well, it piqued his interest in the architecture of harmony. A great thought. It's the reason he was able to step into Sam Cooke's shoes later in the highway QCs. He had already been schooled by his grandmother in how to listen and fit his voice into the structural gaps of a song. And she was a badass, I will say it again, who saw the gift early on. And this is definitely a season 2 string, I think, Mello.
Certainly looks like it, Max. So Lou Rawls starts his journey in Chicago. He's the star of the Highway QCs. This was a junior group, but in Chicago, they were the elite. They were the farm team for the major leagues of gospel.
Here comes that string, Mello. We'll call it the Sam Cooke handoff. So when Sam, who was the original leader of the QCs, got the call to join the Soul Stirrers, well, he personally tapped Lou to take his spot. Lou spent those early years refining his lead energy in the same pews where Sam started. And here's that strand for us to pick on some more, Mello. Lou was in the Highway QCs QCs, which was the junior varsity of gospel, as we said. And when Sam Cooke got called up to the pros, it was Lou who stepped into his shoes. You see, Soul Fam, the highway QCs were the ultimate farm team for the Soul Stirrers. The lineage moves in a direct line of master and apprentice.
Right, Max. Sam Cooke was the original architect of the group.
He sure was.
And like you said, when he moved up to the Soul Stirrers in 1951, he handpicked Lou Rawls to take his place. Lou Rawls then ran the group until he left to join the Holy Wonders and eventually the Pilgrim Travelers, and then Bobby Womack.
Who we covered in season 1, episode 23. And if you didn't get a chance to catch it, you should go back and check it out.
Yeah, do check it out. Definitely worth a watch, y'all. So Bobby and his brothers, the Womack brothers, came through that same Chicago gospel circuit. While the Womacks eventually became the Valentinos.
That's right, they did.
Bobby grew up studying the QC blueprint that Sam and Lou had already built.
And if you haven't caught the Sam Cooke one, go back and watch that one, too.
That's a good one.
It really was. This is the atomic connection, Mello. Sam Cooke didn't just mentor Lou. He mentored Bobby also and eventually signed him and his brothers to his own label, SAR Records, which, of course, is in the Sam Cooke. So Sam saw Bobby as the next evolution of the guitar-playing architect. So I guess you could say Bobby was essentially the grandchild of the QC's lineage. He took the grit of Lou Rawls and the melody of Sam Cooke and added that rock and roll guitar edge. All right, now back to my buddy Lou Rawls.
Right. As an apprentice, Lou Rawls was the ultimate understudy, Max. We talk about the Sam Cooke String in season 1, episode 4. Check it out. All the time. So when he stepped in, he really stepped in.
And he did.
Yeah. But before he hit the national trail with the Travelers, Lou moved to the Holy Wonders from approximately like 53 to 55. And this was his transition to a more professional touring schedule. He was learning how to manage a group's vocal balance and how to handle the business of the plate, which is collecting offerings to pay for gas and food. And of course, that's a lesson in the realities of being on the road, is that there's more to it than just stepping in front of a mic.
Oh, so
there really
much
is
more.
a business to it.
That's exactly right.
And he learned that then.
And he did. And he did. We all did. That's how we all make this. So then comes the big move, Mello. And we're going to talk about Lou Rawls and his joining of the Pilgrim Travelers, the asphalt finishing school, as we call it, and the accident that almost took Lou Rawls' life after this quick break.
You're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. Getting deep into it, so stay with us.
Yeah, buddy.
Welcome back to Architects of Soul. Before we get into the road story, if you like this content, please give a like and subscribe.
Yes, please.
Yeah, remember there's a video version also available on our YouTube page if you feel like watching instead of just listening.
That's right. If you like watching instead of listening, well, you know you can. All right, Mello. So Lou officially joins the Pilgrim Travelers out of L.A. in 1955. Now, this was the NBA of gospel, what we would call the asphalt finishing school, as I said before. We're talking about a group that was famous for their walking tempo, and that was a technique that they used.
Right, Max. The Pilgrim Travelers used a foot tap on the floorboards that acted as a metronome. Lou took this technique and applied it to his later Tobacco Road monologues, using a steady internal pulse to drive the story forward.
Solid as a rock, too, just...
Yep.
So bad.
Using a steady internal pulse to drive the story forward. And since many of the churches they played didn't have tuned pianos, Lou had to learn to find his pitch in the middle of a chaotic room.
Yeah, I bet you know about that.
Having had to sing a cappella, you have to be the rhythm, the bass, and the melody.
That's right.
This is why later in his career, Lou could sing over a 40-piece orchestra or a lone piano and still be the center of the track.
Oh, it surely did, Mello. This gave him the perfect pitch that later made him a one-take legend in the studio. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was a national architect. He was traveling 500 miles a day, singing 3 times a day, and learning how to read the room in every city from Newark to New Orleans.
And they didn't just sing, Max. They paced the stage like they were on a march to Zion.
Yeah, Lou had to learn how to lock into that physical rhythm, Mello. It taught him that the groove isn't just in the drums. It's in the way the architect carries his body.
For a time, Max, Lou and Sam Cooke were both associated with this circle.
That's correct, Mel. They were the young lions of the group. Lou is the one who provided that heavy percussive baritone tenor blend that gave the Travelers their signature walking tempo.
And think about the asphalt blueprint, Max. Being on the road in the 50s wasn't a luxury tour. This was the Chitlin circuit in its rawest form.
In its rawest form, without doubt.
Lou was the young gun in the group. Watching men like J.W. Alexander and Kylo Turner, he learned how to repair a bus engine in the morning and lead a 3-hour service in the evening.
Because if you want to make it to the gig tomorrow, the bus got to run.
Hello.
So that's where the Sam Cooke String gets really pulled together. Since Sam was also a Pilgrim Traveler, they were out there together, sharing meals, sharing the wheel, and sharing the stage. Lou was watching Sam refine that crossover energy. He saw that you could take the dirt of the road and turn it into the diamond of a performance. He was the ultimate understudy, Mello. And here comes that Sam Cooke String again.
That's right. Season 1, episode 4, y'all. Give it a spin.
Clearly, these connections are difference makers, Mello.
Yes, sir. The strings, Max. The strings, I love these connections.
I do too.
So there are the Pilgrim Travelers out there on the road laying it bare every night.
They are.
But then the road pushed back.
It did.
Okay, so picture it. It's 1958, a rainy highway in Arkansas. Lou is in the car with Sam and the travelers. They hit a truck. Lou is ejected from the vehicle. Jeez. He's pronounced dead before they even get him to the hospital, and he spends 5 days in a coma.
Well, that's a kind of seismic moment for us and our peers to grasp.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about that, the Pilgrim Travelers era gave Lou his grit, Mello, but the accident gave him his purpose. This is where the tour ended and the new life began. Because the accident in Arkansas didn't just break Lou's body. It broke his gospel-only contract. And when he recovered, he realized that he had the tools to build a crossover empire.
He realized that the road can take it all away in a second.
It
Max.
surely can.
Having spent time on the road, we both know.
Oh, yes.
The toll that can take.
And it does, especially back then when you're all just piled into a car, a station wagon, or a bus to get to the next gig in the next county or the next state. And the miles are freaking wearing on you. So when Lou finally woke up from that coma, well, he didn't just have a deeper voice, which he did.
He did.
He had a deeper business plan. He wasn't going to be just another singer on the bus. No. He was going to be the architect of his own destiny.
You know, it's quite amazing, Max, when you think about it. He went into that coma as a gospel tenor and woke up with a baritone that felt like it was vibrating from the center of the earth.
And if you met Lou, you would realize it really was vibrating from the center of the earth.
Realizing right then that he didn't have time to play at being an artist, he had to be an architect. He began building a new house around that deeper, resonant frequency. And he was the ultimate understudy, Max.
He surely was.
He learned the architecture of the lead by following the blueprint that Sam left behind.
And he took that mentoring to a high level, Mello. We talk about one-take wonders, but Lou Rawls was a one-life wonder, surviving and snatching his life-size voice from death's door.
Yeah, that's the ultimate soul fire right there, Max. He woke up from a coma and decided he wasn't going to waste a single note. That's why his baritone sounds like it's vibrating, like I said, from the center of the earth.
And he's the reason that Isaac Hayes and Barry White had a career. Mm-hmm. Lou was the one who taught the world that you could talk to the audience before you sang to them. He was the architect of the rap intro. Funny how a near-death experience can change your perspective. Lou often said that surviving that crash gave him a new blueprint for life. He stopped playing at being an artist and started treating every performance like it was his last.
Lou was truly the pre-rap architect, Max. Before Lou, most singers just sang. Lou pioneered, like you said, the rap or monologue.
He did.
Lou pioneered the spoken word intro that set the scene. On tracks like Dead End Street or Tobacco Road, he would talk to the audience about the struggle before the first note ever hit.
That's right, Mello. This wasn't just bullshitting either. It was a calculated move to ground a sophisticated jazz sound back into the dirt of the streets. Man, when they held that tempo and he's talking over, it was just badass. It's a direct string to the monologues that Isaac Hayes would later perfect. And this is the cultural gap that Lou Rawls had to bridge as an architect. Because in Chicago, the sermon and the testimony were part of the air you breathed. You didn't have to explain the hawk, which was the wind coming off the lake, or the dead end street. The audience was living it with you.
But when Lou moved to Los Angeles, Max, and started playing high-end jazz rooms like the Cloister or the Troubadour, he was performing for a crowd that had never seen a Southside winter.
And why was the urban monologue a strategic translation for the West Coast? Who knows? But Lou realized that the LA jazz crowd saw soul as just entertainment. He wanted them to see it as a reality. Like the hawk is the wind off of Lake Michigan that cuts through your coat like a knife. And Lou would spend 2 minutes describing that cold, the hunger, and the concrete before he ever sang a note at Tobacco Road. And you felt every word he said.
And the result, Max, he wasn't just talking. He was building the neighborhood in their minds. He was forcing a wealthy Hollywood audience to walk down a Chicago alleyway before he let them hear the melody.
And you really believed what he said.
In the Chicago church, the preacher lines out the hymn. He talks the lyrics before the choir sings them to make sure the message hits the heart first.
That's right, Mello. Lou took that ecclesiastical blueprint and stripped the religion off of it. Adapting it, he replaced Jesus with the struggle. This is the string to Isaac Hayes and Barry White. Lou proved that the voice of God baritone could be used to narrate the voice of the streets. And this leads us back to that Capitol Records session. The producer, Nick Vinay, wanted a jazz singer. Well, Lou didn't give him that. He gave him a documentarian. During Tobacco Road, Lou told the band to keep the groove low and gritty. Just keep it going. And he started his monologue. And the engineers actually thought he was just checking the mic or practicing his lines, and they almost stopped the tape.
But Lou signaled them to keep rolling, Max.
That he did.
Because he knew that the explanation was the song. He proved that if you don't translate the South Side for the Sunset Strips, the soul gets lost in the crossover.
Oh, it surely does. And we're going to get into that soul when we come back from a break. You're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul.
Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Architects of Soul. We're talking Lou Rawls and his move to L.A. and the creation of the urban narrative.
We sure are, Mello. So, Lou moves to L.A., and of course he's playing coffee houses and not gospel tents. He realizes that the audience does not understand the sound of the South Side of Chicago. And this is where he creates the urban narrative.
Lou was one of the first architects to realize that the soul fire could work in intellectual spaces, Max. Before he hit the big time, he was playing these coffee houses and small jazz clubs in L.A.
Right, and this is where the Tobacco Road style was born, Mello, because he's playing at quiet, attentive rooms instead of rowdy gospel tents. So he started talking to the audience, and he'd explain the South Side to the West Coast. He turned the preacher's sermon into that urban monologue that we've been talking about. It was badass.
That's the near-death pivot. At this point, after his epiphany, he realized he couldn't just sing the notes. He had to tell the story. And that's why he started rapping before the songs. He was bringing the South Side Chicago church porch to the jazz clubs in Hollywood. He was the architect of the crossover narrative.
That's right. The Tobacco Road Sessions in 1963 was a landmark, Mello. Lou stepped into the booth of the famous Capitol Tower in Hollywood. We all know what that tower looks like. And like we said before, the producer's Nick Vinay, man, he was expecting a standard vocal jazz session.
Big surprise coming,
Oh, you bet.
Because the band started a low bluesy vamp, just a steady, gritty heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, and the story goes that Lou didn't start singing. Man, he just closed his eyes and just started talking about the hawk, that freezing Chicago wind. And the engineers in the control room actually stopped the tape. They thought that Lou was just checking his levels or practicing his lines before the real song started. Nope. So Lou signals them through the glass to keep that fucker rolling. He realized that the LA audience needed a user manual for the South Side. He proved that the monologue wasn't filler. It was the structural steel of the song. And because the Tobacco Road intro was 100% improvised, the musicians had to read Lou's body language to know exactly when to drop the hammer.
And man, that room was tense, Max.
I'll bet it was.
The band was following Lou's cadence like he was a conductor,
Yeah,
which he
and
really
they were
was.
solid. They were solid, man. That band just locked right into that thing.
And when he finally transitioned from the story of the dead-end street into the first belt of I Was Born in a Dump,
Oh, yeah.
the energy in the room shifted so violently that the take became the final master.
There were no overdubs, Mello. No edits. It was a live-to-tape masterpiece. Lou showed the new vibe peers that authenticity is definitely a technical spec. You cannot fake that kind of atmosphere pressure in a second take. It just doesn't happen.
And it seems, Max, that Lou was so descriptive about the dirt and grime of Tobacco Road that the session players, mostly West Coast jazz cats, reportedly felt chilled in the climate-controlled studio.
Imagine if they were in Chicago. Oh,
Right?
God forbid. But a quick tech talk detail for a second here about Lou. Lou used a proximity effect on the microphone that was revolutionary at the time. So he leaned in so close to the monologue so that you could hear the sub-bass of his chest cavity, right up on the capsule. Then when the song exploded, he backed off 3 feet. And as we alluded to this before, that became the blueprint for Isaac Hayes and Barry White. Lou taught the industry that the microphone is a microscope. It can capture the smallest truth before it captures the biggest shout.
It was a one-take miracle, Max. He proved that the monologue wasn't filler, it was the foundation. This is a massive lesson for R&B artists today. We're in an era of 15-second clips, But Lou teaches us that if you don't build the story first, the song has nowhere to sit.
And check out the Beatles string, right? So Lou was recording at the Capitol Tower at the same time as the British invasion was happening. Mm-hmm. You know, the Beatles in 66 were in L.A., and Lou Rawls and the Beatles occupied the same space at Capitol. And they were actually fans of each other's design. Technically, label mates, right? Mm-hmm. So in the mid-60s, Lou was Capitol's secret weapon, while the Beatles were architecting the British invasion. Lou was architecting the urban narrative. I think that's pretty amazing, Mello.
And to add another layer, Max, in 1966, Lou released Lou Rawls Live. It stayed on the charts for 89 weeks.
89 weeks, man. 89 weeks.
Yeah, and during that same era, the Beatles were evolving from mop tops to studio architects.
And the Beatles, specifically Paul McCartney, were very obsessed with the Chicago sound and the gospel soul phrasing. Lou's record was one of the few black live albums that white rock audiences were actually buying in droves. So the story goes that when Lou was at Capitol, you know, the Hollywood stack of pancakes building, we all have seen it, right? So the Beatles were often in the next room. Lou's cool and his technical precision, it influenced the way the British bands perceived that sophisticated soul architect. Lou was just staggering.
Mm-hmm. And if nothing else, he was certainly sophisticated.
Oh, my God, he was.
The 1966 Lou Rawls album is the skyscraper that changed the skyline for every classy soul architect who followed.
Lou was certainly a man with class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because before this record, live albums were just low-quality captures of a hit set. Lou and Capitol Records treated this like a major construction process.
Indeed, they did, Mel, and it was way cool for its time, especially. And after staying on the Billboard charts for those 89 weeks, man, Lou earned his first gold record. Mm-hmm. The album is the blueprint for the new vibe, and here's why.
Capitol didn't just record a show, they manufactured an atmosphere.
There it is, the word, atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
All the rage today, Mel, all the rage. Back then, though, it wasn't so easy to do, so they had to create a studio live hybrid.
For the time, Max, a very brilliant idea. They didn't record it in a massive theater. They brought a small invited audience into Capitol Studio B in Hollywood.
I think that they've done things like that later on in the years.
They have a bunch of albums like that, quote, live albums like that. They set up tables, served drinks, and created a club architecture inside a world-class recording facility.
Technically, that provides some great edges, if you ask me. It allows the engineers to get the studio quality separation on the instruments while capturing the live soul energy of the crowd. And of course, that's the key, is trying to get the best recording. Most live albums were just a couple of audience mics up and hope the 2-mix was going to sound good in a PA. But that's not the way it was here. They wanted to get every sound right. They wanted the fidelity. And for our peers today, well, obviously you realize that this is the ancestor of Unplugged or the Tiny Desk vibe. Yeah. High fidelity, intimacy. I did a whole bunch of stuff like that when I was back at MTV with bands like Stone Temple Pilots, Radiohead, Frankie J. Man, the energy of something like that is just incredible.
And here's where Lou shows the urban narrative mastery for real. This is the record where the monologues for Tobacco Road and South Side became legendary. Lou knew he was in Hollywood, but his soul was in Chicago.
Yeah, right.
So he spent a massive chunk of the record just talking. He explained the hawk to people who had never seen snow.
That's right. And the impact of it, he proved that a black artist could be an intellectual storyteller. Man, he wasn't just shouting for the crowd. He was narrating a life. He turned the Chitlin Circuit testimony into sophisticated urban sermon. He was so badass. Lou's band on this record, including Ozzie Matthews on piano, and they were tight, disciplined, and they were swanging.
As we discussed before, Max, while the Beatles were in the next room at Capitol experimenting with tape loops, Lou was in Studio B showing the world that real-time soul was just as innovative.
He sure was.
He proved that you didn't need a 40-piece orchestra to sound big. You just needed a rhythm section that understood the pocket.
And they sure as shit understood pocket. Lou was showing the world that live soul could be sophisticated, Mello. He proved that a black artist could be classy and gritty at the exact same time.
Lou Rawls, Max, some architect.
Oh, I so agree, Mello. I was very fortunate to get a chance to work with him when I was at the Apollo. And all I gotta say is what he always used to have to say. Yeah, buddy.
We're gonna take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul, so keep it locked.
Thanks for tuning into Architects of Soul. Our music is waiting for you.
Welcome back to Architects of Soul. If you like this content, please give a like and subscribe.
Yes, please, please.
Yeah, remember there's a video version available on our YouTube page if you feel like watching instead of just listening.
That's right. So, Mello, we have to talk about the Ghost Architect moment. In 1962, Sam Cooke is recording Bring It On Home to Me. This recording session is a masterclass in collaborative architecture. It's June at RCA Studios in Hollywood, and two childhood friends from the Chicago South Side, Sam Cooke and Lou Rawls, they stepped into the booth to lay down what would become one of the most foundational tracks in soul history. Technically, Lou Rawls was hired as a background singer for this session. Because of contract entanglements, he couldn't be credited as a featured artist. Their call and response was the church. Sam wrote the song as a secular version of the Soul Stirrers gospel style. He needed a double lead. Lou wasn't just backing him up, man. He was the anchor.
The yeah frequency, that iconic response. Sam sings a line, Lou answers with a deep, resonant yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't just a vocal ornament. It was a rhythmic pulse. Lou's baritone provided the sub-bass that allowed Sam's tenor to float and fly over the melody. Because they had both been lead singers for the Highway QCs, they had a shared musical language. They didn't need to rehearse the timing. Lou knew exactly where Sam was going to bend a note or take a breath.
That's right, and here they rocked that one-take vibe. They recorded the song with a live band and a small group of friends in the studio to create that party atmosphere, and you could even hear the hand claps and the chatter in the background. It wasn't a sterile recording. It was a neighborhood event captured on tape.
Even the producers, Hugo and Luigi, were part of the string.
Yes, they were, Mello. In the world of 1960s A&R productions, turns out they were a powerhouse duo known as Hugo and Luigi.
Yeah, their full names were Hugo Peretti and Luigi Creatore. They were cousins, and they were the general contractors for RCA Records during some of its most fertile years.
It's true, Mello. Hugo and Luigi weren't just vibing in the studio. They were masters of the commercial architecture. They had a very specific pop sensibility that they used to cross-pollinate R&B artists into the mainstream. We love that. Mm-hmm. They were the producers behind almost all of Sam's big hits, including Twisting the Night Away, Chain Gang, and of course, Bring It On Home to Me, which we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And on the Bring It On Home to Me session, they were the ones who realized that the ghost architect, Lou Rawls, was the secret ingredient. They had the ear to recognize that Lou's yeah response was the structural steel that the record needed to reach the top 10.
And they noticed something else during the takes also, Mello. Sam sang better when Lou was in the room. Mm-hmm. Lou was pushing the architect. For all of us artists out there, this is the ultimate proof your background should never be just backing. Mm-hmm. It should be a structural support that forces the lead to reach their highest potential.
This is the ultimate peer lesson. Lou wasn't even credited on that record.
No, he was not.
No, because he was technically in the background. But he's actually the structural steel, that iconic yeah response. That's Lou anchoring Sam's tenor.
And an anchor it was, because they had that Highway QC shorthand. They didn't need to rehearse. As we said, Lou knew exactly where the gaps were in Sam's melody, and sure as shit, he filled them. It's a lesson for every collaborator today. You don't have to have your name on the front of the building to be the one holding up the roof.
It connects to the Jackie Wilson
Season 1, Episode 9, y'all.
That's string 2. Lou watched Jackie, the architect of excitement, literally exhaust himself for the crowd. Lou decided to be the architect of longevity. He took Jackie's sharp suits and precision, but slowed the heartbeat down. He realized that cool was a more sustainable foundation than heat.
Okay, Mello, so Lou is really feeling it, and it's 1967, and up comes Dead End Street.
The track won Lou his first Grammy for R&B vocal performance. It solidified his urban architect status. He wasn't just a singer. He was the voice of the struggle dressed in a tuxedo.
In a tuxedo, and classy as a motherfucker. Yes, sir. And he was working it, Mello. In 71, he had a massive new vibe moment at NJM Records. He recorded A Natural Man, and this song won him his second Grammy. And this record moved him away from that big band jazz sound towards a much more contemporary percussive R&B. And that was the bridge. He was shedding that jazz skin and getting ready for the grit of the 70s.
Lou might not have known it then, Max, but that was the preview of the Philly soul sound. It proved that Lou could thrive in a more electronic and syncopated environment.
Yeah, but as time changes, music changes, and Lou hit that dry spell. So spanning a gap from 73 to 75, Lou's career really slowed down. And the new vibe was shifting towards disco and self-contained bands like Sly Stone, Season 2, Episode 5, y'all. And he hit a wall, Mello. He really hit a wall. He was stuck in the Vegas lounges, and he knew his building needed a renovation.
It's 1976, Max. Lou is seen as a legacy act. He was making money, but he was losing his architectural influence. He knew he needed a reconstruction. This is what led him to knock on the door of Philadelphia International. He needed the general contractors, who were Gamble and Huff, to give his classic foundation a modern skyscraper.
It's so true, Mello. Lou realized that if he stayed in the lounges, he'd be an oldies act by 45. He needed to find the steel of the 70s. And at that time, well, that was in Philly and Sigma Studios.
which you undoubtedly will remember from last season, episode 14, Lou knew this decision was critical. And that's when he felt the pull of the Sigma sound magnetism.
Correct. And at the time, Gamble and Huff were the most successful architects in the world. Mel, their Philly soul sound was the perfect blend of church house grit and orchestral silk. And Lou's manager and his inner circle knew that Philly International was the only label that treated soul with the class that Lou required.
I guess you didn't have to tell him twice.
I don't think so.
Because Lou didn't just wait for a call. He actively sought out a meeting with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. And he told them, I've got the foundation, but I need you guys to build a skyscraper.
Yeah, so when Lou sat down with Gamble and Huff, they had a specific structural vision for Lou Rawls. They didn't want him to be a jazz singer. They wanted him to be the anchor for their lush, driving Philly arrangements. They realized that Lou's deep baritone was the only instrument resonant enough to cut through their 40-piece string sections.
So sign him they did.
Oh, hell yes.
In 1975, Lou signed with PIR, which is Philadelphia International Records. It was a legacy pivot that changed the trajectory of his career and saved his brand for the next 30 years.
Oh, it sure did. The first thing Kenny Gamble did in the studio, though, was strip back Lou's Vegas polish. The story goes that during those sessions for All Things in Time, Gamble told Lou, listen, I need that Chicago Southside dirt back. Don't give me that lounge, Lou. Give me the gospel, Lou.
And the result, Max, the first single they released was You'll Never Find
And
Another
we
Like...
all love that song.
Yeah, that's my favorite song by him. It was a knock-it-out-of-the-park home run. Yes, sir. Lou Rawls scored a #1 R&B hit and a #2 pop hit.
Whoa.
Which proved that the Lou Rawls blueprint was indestructible if it had the right Philly steel supporting it.
Really? Seriously, that's some badass shit. Like the #1 R&B hit and the #2 pop hit. Mm-hmm. I'll take that any day. So, but the real home run, Mello, and this is the big part, is the corporate blueprint. Because Lou took his brand to Anheuser-Busch. And he didn't just take the check. Yeah, buddy. No, he built the UNCF telethon. He raised over $200 million for education. He proved that a soul architect's greatest legacy isn't a gold record. It's the infrastructure that they build for the next generation. Amen, y'all. Lou Rawls, one hell of an architect. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, he was indeed an impressive architect.
Oh, he sure was, Mel.
And if you're enjoying this dive into the business of soul, give us a like and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, the full visual experience is over on our YouTube channel.
Amen. And we're going to take a short break and be back to wrap this puppy up. You're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. We'll be right back. Hey, and we're back with you to wrap up for Lou Rawls.
Well, Max, we can't leave without talking about Lou's vocal engineering.
No.
He treated his voice like a high-performance machine. No ice-cold drinks, room temperature water, and apple juice to cut the dust. My routine is similar to that.
Similar?
Yeah, hot tea or warm tea.
I know you love your tea, that's for sure.
Not piping hot.
But
Yeah.
Lou was a careful man with those pipes, as you are with yours. He never redlined his voice. My kind of guy, actually. He kept an emergency reserve of 15%, so he could do 3 shows in Vegas and still sound like silk. He was a master of the microphone, using the proximity effect to make the listener feel like he was whispering in their ear.
Mm-hmm. And for every artist today, the lesson is clear, Max. Built for the long haul. Protect your frequency. Lou taught us that you can be a superstar and a philanthropist, a church singer and a corporate icon, as long as your foundation is the truth.
And as always, we want to close with our final thought, our hope for all of us, our art, our craft, and our creations.
Keep that soul fire burning, protect your sound, nurture your creativity, own your voice, and remember the lessons from the giants who came before.
And yes, protect your masters and seek out wise mentors who can guide you on your journey. And until next we meet, peace and soul, y'all.